It's time to pull those belts tight, race fans. The front stretch is coming at you, presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs. Now, here's Dan Taylor and Dirk Houston.
Well, good morning to you, race fans, and welcome to the front stretch, presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs, online at joeskarting.com. Fast-paced white-knuckle racing just across the river on 23rd Avenue in Council Bluffs. And going on today, it is the Racing with the Stars, your opportunity to turn laps again against Midwest celebrities in the dirt racing community. Get over to Joe's today and do some good work. You get to have fun, you get to help raise money for the holiday horsepower drive.
I think the fun's the key factor here. If it's not fun, raising money kind of stinks. But if it's fun, raising money's cool. And
it's a cool way of doing it. You get to race against these guys. You'll get about a race in between. Sometimes some of the civilians, if you want to put it that way, will buy so many races that they basically just go back to back to back and just keep racing. But now they've put it in that you're going to have at least one race in between your races if you purchase enough in the time that the Racing with the Stars is going on. So, but it's a lot of fun, and I always love going over there. I think PJ Pedersen is going to be the announcer again over there, calling the races and getting people set up for going out. So it's a great time. It's a great way to raise some money for charity, being the holiday horsepower drive, and you get to hang out with some of your favorite celebrity race car drivers.
Yeah, I don't believe they do adult beverages, but I do know they have a taco truck coming over there.
They do. I believe it was 2 tacos for $3, 3 tacos for $5. Portions of the proceeds will go to the holiday horsepower drive. And raising money for that.
Still going to cost me $10 to eat.
But it's a walking taco. They're well worth the money. Absolutely delicious. Some of the local drivers that are included are going to be Kevin Zeitner, IMCA Northern Sport Mod driver and 2018 Shelby County Speedway Track champion. Reese Vaught, who's a Super Late Model Series driver, is going to be there. Let's see. John Orlowski, the promoter and driver for the Good Old Time Racing Association. Ricky Steffen, who's out in the Crawford County area, is going to be over there.
I wonder if John's going to put a Gotra body on his cart.
You would almost hope so, right?
I would hope so, yeah.
Joshua Bloom, who's an IMCA Sport Mod driver and 2018 Trailer Queen champion. That's going to be interesting to figure out what the heck that is. Riley Payson, who is a former Young Gun, and Larry Robinson Jr., also a former Young Gun. So,
yeah. Good field to race against.
A lot of and 20 celebrity drivers, and there's trophies that are given out. It's a great time to get over there today and help out the holiday horsepower drive. Once again, walking tacos, 1 for $3, 2 for $5. All proceeds go to the holiday horsepower drive. So that's a good time over there. Find it. 2018 Racing with the Stars is the big the Facebook event page for that. Joining us on the show today, turn number 1, we're going to recap the race at Martinsville, how that is impacting the next 3 races for the playoffs. And turn number 2, Tim Kozak, who was injured in a accident on track at Eagle Raceway earlier this year, is going to join us to get us updated on his road to recovery. Shayle Bade, who's the driver of the Nebraska 360 03 Helget Construction Sprint car, will join us. Again, that's in turn number 3. And then in turn number 4, we'll get you set for today's race at Texas and preview the party to come at Homestead in just a couple of weeks.
Man, there's only this show and 2 more shows. And
yeah.
The NASCAR season is done.
And that's it, yeah.
Then we got to watch reruns and stuff.
I do have like 8 or 9 races on my DVR that I didn't get to see the full races, or I definitely want to go back and rewatch them. Like, for instance, this weekend at Martinsville, that will hopefully hold me over for at least a couple of weeks. Because the offseason for NASCAR is like, what, 12, 14 weeks?
It's a long time. But if Brad Keselowski has his way, that's going to change.
That's true. All right, so let's recap what happened at Martinsville. What looked like it was going to be quite the
wet weekend.
Yeah, ended up being a fairly nice dry weekend. Midway through that race, they started showing the radar, and when the TV broadcast partner starts showing the radar, you know things are getting serious. Yeah, and so drivers are starting to get up on the wheel, and it's starting to shake up strategy a little bit, because where normally guys would have maybe broken that final stage into 2 pit stops, now they're thinking, do we come early and then let everybody else cycle through, and then hopefully the rain hits at the right time? Do we stay out and try it that way? What do we do? And so there was a lot of different strategies going on, a lot of different comers and goers, but one thing was for certain: Joey Logano had a hot rod.
Well, there were several cars that were really good.
Kevin Harvick was really good for a while there.
Denny Hamlin started out really good, but it was like him and Clint Boyer both didn't keep up with the track. And of course, then Boyer had a little spin there with a little help late in the race, which kind of dumped him down into the 20th spot or 21st or something.
21st on the day, 26 points for the day. Terrible day for him.
But I mean, he had good stage finishes in the first and second stage.
And again, that's what saved him.
It just didn't finish the day. Like I said, Harvick, had a good car for the most part, but Brad Keselowski faded after the last pit stop. He was real good there for a while, and it stretched out to a real big lead there for a while.
I want to talk about that Brad Keselowski for a little bit because it was really interesting to me because I fully expected him to battle Joey for a little bit, but then let Joey get the lead. And it almost felt like Joey was going to have to dump him to get around him. And eventually, Brad, like you said, Brad's car, I don't know if Brad burnt the tires off because his car wasn't as good as Joey's, and he had to push a little bit harder, so his tires were more worn down. But eventually that car started to slow down, and Joey was able to get by him cleanly. And as soon as Joey got by him, I thought, okay, well, now he's going to pick the pace back up, and he's going to block Martin Truex Jr. because that's the thing that's that's the biggest hurdle to Joey winning this race and getting into the championship for is Martin Truex Jr. in third. But Martin was able to get by Brad pretty quickly also.
Brad fought for the lead so hard because they kept talking about that rain. I'd be willing to bet there were guys hollering about rain on the backstretch, rain in turn 3, and, all kinds of stuff like that. Yeah. But the rain that the announcers kept saying is here, but where is it?
It's the vortex theory.
It could have been.
It was the vortex. I'm telling you. Larry Mack is a smart man, and I'll buy into the vortex theory any day of the week. But it was an awesome race, and to watch first Brad Keselowski and Joey Logano battle so hard for the lead, and then that battle between Martin Truex Jr. and Joey Logano. I mean, I could not take my eyes off the TV. I couldn't run to the kitchen, and you've seen my kitchen. It's within earshot of my living room. It's not like it's that far away.
Well, as long as you don't have to walk around all the cats.
Yeah, that was an amazing race, and it was really neat to watch how even if Joey would get loose and slide up the track and Martin would get inside of him, traditionally you would think, okay, now he's inside, he's got the nose, he's going. But it wasn't that case. Joey was able to fight back on the outside so well that, it was just amazing to watch. And eventually, Martin Truex Jr. was able to get around him.
And then Martin Truex Jr. just literally, he waited to pass him until the last lap, but evidently that was too early.
Yeah.
Everybody in the whole place except Martin evidently knew what was coming.
Well,
I did.
He probably knew it was coming. That doesn't make it any better.
But I just don't know why he didn't just go ahead and stay behind him and be the guy doing the dumping and running.
Yeah.
I think your old school people are saying that's the way racing is. Dale Earnhardt did it a billion times, and some of the other more traditionalists will say, Truex passed him clean. He expected the same thing back. With Joey Logano's history, you should have known. You might as well wait and bump him out of the way.
Well, with anybody's, name one driver in the back of that field that wouldn't have moved somebody for what was on the line at that race. That was your golden ticket to the championship for.
Well, again, see, I don't look at it like that because I think they're out there to win every race. A couple of years ago when Ryan Blaney got his first win at Pocono and Kevin Harvick could have dumped him, but he didn't.
Yeah.
They raced and he raced clean and he couldn't beat him, so he ran second. It's that's just the mindset of these guys.
But there's more factors to this than just the golden ticket that I talked about. It's a win at Martinsville is so coveted. It's up there with a win at Daytona, a win at Darlington. It is one of the more coveted races on the track because, first off, they want that grandfather clock. It's such a difficult race to win. You can go from being a top contender at one time that year to being at the back of the pack at the next time. When you find lightning in the bottle and you're that close to a win, you don't let it go. Especially when you're talking about the Cup Series and wins are so hard to come by. Look at Joey Logano. Let's look at the last 40, 45 races for him. Ever since they were busted, it was in 2016 that they were busted for an illegal car. And that 22 team has just struggled. And while the last 10, 15 races, they have steadily come back, and they've been more of a 10th place car, I still don't think they're a major contender. And so when Joey had the ability to go get that win, he went and got it. And I'll go back to the same thing I said with Jimmy Johnson at Charlotte. I love it. I want these guys moving each other out of the way. I want them beating and banging for that win. That was exactly what every NASCAR fan over the last 30 years has said is the reason why they turned away, is because these guys are too much finesse. They points race. They don't care. Joey had a great race that day. He could have very easily taken the points and gone on to Texas and into Phoenix and had a pretty good shot at still getting into Homestead, but he didn't settle. He went for that win, and I love that, and I'm so excited that's beginning to come back into NASCAR.
Well, I think he needs to hope that Martin Truex gets in the top 4 also.
Here's where I think Joey Logano may learn from history, because a lot of people have said this. You look at history to figure out how to handle your future. What happened with him and Matt Kenseth, what started at Kansas and ended up at Martinsville, a lot of people said the reason why was because Joey didn't seem very remorseful for what he did to Matt at Kansas.
No, he wasn't at all.
He never called him. He never texted him. He never offered any kind of a, hey, man, I'm sorry if you're upset by it, any kind of conversation. And Matt even said he was really surprised that Joey never reached out to him. And at least had a conversation, because even if you still disagree there, it means a little something that he was willing to reach out to him. So it made it that much easier for Matt to go out and dump him in Martinsville. So maybe Joey will learn his.
Tony Stewart said he trashed him.
So maybe Joey will learn and reach out to Martin and say, hey, listen, I'm sorry if you feel like I raced you dirty, but I think you understand everything that's going on, and they're able to kind of reach out and have a conversation, and maybe he can heal that way. Also, I think where the last incident happened was in the round at Kansas, when Kansas was still the middle of a round. It wasn't the elimination race
Correct.
Of a round.
There was
Talladega was
between
still
the two races.
I think now Martin Truex Jr. is smart enough to know, as long as he's still in the hunt for a ticket to Homestead, he's not going to risk wrecking Joey Logano and damaging his car. They're going to race safe. But you better, just like Martin said, I'm not cutting him any slack. I know how he's going to race me. Now I know how to race him. So what a great race. And I mean, I'm sitting there jumping up and down because guess who I took? Denny Hamlin. And I mean, it was an awesome, beating and banging coming out of turn 4 for the checker. But then when they both started slipping and sliding, and here comes Denny on the inside, I'm like, I'm going to sneak a win. I'm going to get one. And then it was second.
If there'd have been a lap to go.
Yeah. Denny could have easily
would have got over there and smacked Hamlin, too.
You're absolutely right. So Logano gets the win. He punches his ticket onto Homestead. Like we talked about last weekend, everything from here on out for Joey Logano is basically worthless.
Starting park.
You don't even really need to. You don't have to worry about playoff points. You don't have to worry about stage points. You don't have to worry about bonuses. Nothing because nothing transfers for him onto Homestead. So he's just out there, basically going to play spoiler. If he can figure out the best way to keep some of his biggest competitors, Martin Truex Jr., Denny Hamlin, and Martin Truex Jr., Kevin Harvick, and Kyle Busch, if he could find a way to keep any of those guys out of Homestead, that's his best bet for winning the championship right now. The final 2 races he has left in this round, he's got to find a way to eliminate his strongest competition.
Exactly. And, we've been saying that for the last couple of weeks. These guys want to be spoilers and not let some guys in. But I'm just telling you right now, if he needs to make sure that Martin Truex gets in that Final 4.
You think so?
Oh, yeah.
Because that's probably his safest bet to make it to be safe at Homestead, right?
Correct.
You're saying if he eliminates Martin Truex Jr., Truex has got nothing to lose.
The team's going away.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all like, here's my last hurrah,
Martin Truex Jr. is at Homestead with a car that's never going to see the racetrack again unless it gets sold to Joe Gibbs Racing, which that's a possibility. But who cares at that point in time? It's an old car that they're going to have a new package for everything for 2019.
And all he's got to do is run 6 wide on a restart like Joey Logano did, a couple of years ago to Carl Edwards, and stuff the guy in the wall, and I was just going for it on the restart.
Yep. Hamlin comes home second. Truex ends up third after beating and banging with Joey. Hamlin was able to squeeze by. Kyle Busch comes home in fourth, and Brad Keselowski first of your fifth place finisher. Kurt Busch, Chase Elliott, Ryan Newman, Daniel Suarez, and Kevin Harvick your top 10. Clint Bowyer, worst of the playoff finishers we talked about a little bit ago, 21st place finish into So he's now in a hole. Looking at that hole, Eric Almirola, worst of everybody, behind 50 points in that 8th place. He is behind Kevin Harvick by 50 points. Clint Boyer, 42 points behind. Chase Elliott, 31 points behind. And Kurt Busch in 5th. He is 25 points behind. It's amazing the tale of 2 rounds. Now, granted, we're only a third of the way through this round, but last round, Chase Elliott was the hot shoe. Punched his ticket once, padded his advantage going into the final round with that last race. But now he is sitting 7th, 42 points behind the cut line, and he's to the point, even at Texas, Eric Almirola and him, they got to really focus on, Chase Elliott is 6th, 31 points behind. Chase, basically any of these guys back there, Kurt Busch, Chase Elliott, Clint Boyer, and Eric Almirola, they got to be focused on wins. You really can't talk about pointing your way in anymore because you got to point your way past Kevin Harvick, Martin Truex Jr., and Kyle Busch. Absolutely.
And those guys have so many bonus points from wins and stage wins and such that, that's just going to be hard to do.
Yep.
Now, granted, one of those guys can go out and have an early crash, and with a 38th place finish, and I mean early in the race, so there's no stage points or no nothing. A 1 or 2 point day would really change the scenery on this deal.
How about last time we were at Texas, Martin Truex Jr. involved in an accident on lap 80, finished tail end Charlie. How about that for an early checkout to your race?
That's the kind of deal for one of those guys in the bottom 4 right now to point their way in. That's got to happen. And if it doesn't happen, again, win's the only way in. Chase Elliott's had some success in his young career at Texas. Doesn't have a win there, obviously, but he's had some success there. Obviously, Kevin Harvick's had a ton of success there. So has Brad Keselowski. So it's still, Brad Keselowski doesn't matter anymore, but he can still be a spoiler and, keep some of the good cars out if something would happen, by winning a race there. And there's a whole bunch of good cars going to Phoenix. So there's a lot of racing left.
We'll talk about that and so much more coming up in turn number 4 as we preview today's race at Texas. Plus, still to come, Shayle Bade will join us in turn number 3. And just around the corner, Tim Kozak, who was injured in a scary accident at Eagle Raceway earlier this year, will join us in turn number 2. We're going to take a break. We'll be back in
Finding a home can be the most important decision in your life. It's the simple factors of neighborhood, garage size, the school district, and commute that get overlooked by most realtors. Those are the aspects that Jim Blazina has been focusing on since 1988. From rental properties to your forever home, the Racing Realtor will work hard to get you exactly what you're looking for, and he can help list your home for a speedy sale. Contact Jim Blazina today, 402-980-8400, or jblazina at npdodge.com.
Every race car driver has run into the same problem. It's well past normal parts store closing hours, but you need that one to finish your car. The guys who brought you White Knuckle Racing by the River bring you Joe's Karting Racing Parts and Tire Store. Open until 10 p.m. Monday to Thursday and open until 11 p.m. on Friday and Saturday. A parts store that fits your after-hours schedule, and you can turn a few laps at Joe's Karting while you're waiting for your part to get pulled from their warehouse. joeskarting.com for more information.
We're hooked up in turn 2 and still showing the green flag on the front stretch.
Rolling into turn number 2, and it's time to sit down with a guy who is currently on his road to recovery, and I say that very freshly because Tim Kozak joining us on the front stretch and just got out of physical therapy for yet another day of stretching and toning and pain and screaming and cussing and all sorts of fun. Right, Tim?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. They like to butter me up first with a nice massage, and then they start picking on me. So.
Oh, that's just cruel. They don't massage you after?
No, they like to loosen me up first.
Do they let you have a Busch Light while they're massaging you? That would really help the whole process.
That would be perfect.
Well,
there
Tim,
we go.
Before we get to the meat of the conversation, which is talking about what happened to Eagle earlier this year, I want to talk about your racing career because you do have some experience behind the wheel, and you have been a part of the racing community for a very long time.
Yes. Yeah, I actually ran a mini sprint. Oh, boy, you have to check me on this, but I think the 2003, the Andelts owned the car, and I raced for them for quite a few years, and they gave me a chance at running that, and, well, we ran out of money, so that was the end of that.
Story of a million tales.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's ended a lot of careers, that cubic dollar thing.
Yes. And then I went on to work for quite a few guys over the years, mini sprints mainly with the J Husker Tour, and then got another start with Beckman in the hobby stock division and raced for him for a couple of years, and then he was selling one of his rides to build a new one, and well, I bought it and ended up racing that for about 6 years at Eagle in the Valentino's hobby stock division there. And we got Rookie of the Year, Most Improved Driver on 13, I believe. And yeah, we had a lot of fun along the road. And then ended up selling the car here a couple of years ago to buy a house. And yeah, that's where the whole officiating come in.
I was going to say, did the arrival of your daughters have anything to do with the for sale sign on the car?
No, I mean, yes and no. They were pretty young when I was racing yet, but we just decided it's time to buy a house of our own. So it's like, well, we'll put the race car down for a little bit and get into the house here, and concentrate on some other things, and we'll get back to it here one of these years. But so yeah, anyway, sold that and bought the house, and then got talked into being official out at Eagle, which it was pretty cool.
Was this your first year as an official at Eagle, or you've been doing it for a couple of years?
This is my third year doing it.
Okay.
And no, it's pretty cool. Actually, the officiating side's pretty neat. Get to see what's on the other side of it. A lot of things as a driver you don't see going on and this and that, and just kind of cool to see the other side of it. So
until that night happened, which
yes,
that was. For a lot of people, you scared the hell out of a lot of people.
Yeah, sounds like there's quite a few people had trouble sleeping there for a couple nights after that.
Well, let's go through it a little bit. It started off as kind of a regular night, and you work the cone for the restarts, which, for anybody that hasn't seen it, your job when the caution comes out is to take the cone and go halfway or about a little bit farther than halfway onto the racetrack.
Yep, a little bit further than halfway there, and help get everybody single file for the restart.
And I don't want to talk about the cars that hit you, because after it all happened, Roger had a meeting with all the officials, and he said, I don't want anybody talking about who the cars were involved, because too many things went wrong for this to happen to blame just one or two drivers.
Right, it's kind of the perfect storm.
Yeah. If you're okay with talking about it, can you kind of walk us through what happened?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Caution come out and ran the cone out there, and was sitting there by the cone and going to start directing them to get single file and helping get cars in order. And one of them stepped out of line and seen it coming. And at first I thought maybe he was just going to split me in the cone, and it's happened in the past. And then the closer he got, it's like, no, if I stay here, he's going to take my legs off. So my instinct at that point was to try and get to the infield and then try and jump and get above him a little bit. And then it was lights out after that.
How much of it do you remember?
I remember everything up until getting hit. I don't remember the actual hit.
Yeah. And then after that, you have probably some fuzzy memories. You were coming and going?
Yeah, bits and pieces. I remember, my first memory getting up is I was face down on the track, and I remember seeing a lot of blood next to me, and I thought, oh, God, that can't be good. And then for some reason, I thought to wiggle my toes, and I could wiggle my toes. And I'm thinking, okay, I can wiggle my toes. That's good. That's good. That's good. And then Billy Lloyd, the flagman, he was there, quick, real quick.
I think he got to you before your shoe hit the ground.
That's what I hear. I heard he didn't even wave that red flag. I heard he just threw it in the air and took off running.
Yeah. If you don't mind me jumping in, the first thing I remember, I had my back turned to the whole thing. I heard the crowd yell, kind of gasp, and I turned around and looked, and I could see some dust, and then out of the corner of my eye, about 35, 40 feet away from you, your shoe lands. For your shoe to come off.
Yeah, apparently it caught some air. Like I said, I don't remember a whole lot of the impact at all, which I think honestly is a good thing. I'm kind of glad I don't remember that. I haven't seen the video, and nor do I want to see the video. But apparently that was one of the big conversations. Man, you should see how far your shoe went.
Your shoe may have gotten higher than Shayle Bade did a few years ago, which is saying something. All right,
I keep telling everybody I was trying to stop that car with my shoulder, but I lost my footing. That's where everything went.
The whole Iron Man thing doesn't work very well.
Well, at least you were looking at the direction of the traffic coming at you. Because, if it would have hit you blindsided, if you'd have been looking to turn one or something, who knows what would have happened. And
yeah, it gets spooky down there sometimes. But, honestly, that's one thing I've always kind of taught myself to do is always give myself an exit strategy.
Yeah.
And it just wasn't there that night.
I remember after they got you stabilized and they got the ambulance down on the track, and You were responsive, and I remember they carried you into the ambulance to be able to kind of control the situation a little bit better. And your wife had already come down and talked to you, and she'd headed back up to go to the hospital and meet the life flight there. And I remember one of the emergency workers coming out and with the most serious look. I got honest, when he came out with the look on his face, I thought you'd died. And he came out and he goes, "Somebody better find his damn wife or he is going to rip that ambulance apart." And she already left for the hospital, and I think they had to tell you about 10 times before you finally remembered it and calmed down a little bit. But you were very excited to see your wife.
Yeah, no, that was the one thing that kind of after I kind of come to there a little bit is just for some reason I had to tell my wife I was okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because I didn't know if she's seen it. I didn't know, but I just wanted her to know that I'm okay. I'm okay. Yeah. And that's all I could think of. Of course, I was in quite a bit of shock then too. Like I said, I've heard it from numerous people. Yeah, we've told you like 10 times that, your wife even come and talk to you, and I have no recollection of that. So.
Yeah.
Famous last words. I'm okay. I'm okay. Yeah.
Let's fast forward just a little bit, and we'll get back to some of the more the kind of the rehab details in your road to recovery. But can you believe you're this okay?
No. In fact, I go to Madonna here for rehabilitation, and these nurses are just beyond words that I'm up, moving around, and in as good a shape as I'm in. I tell people I got hit by a race car. Most of them are like, "Oh man, if you look that bad, how bad was your car?" It's like, no, you don't understand. Like, I got hit by a race car.
I wasn't in a race car. Yeah.
They're like, "Oh my God, and you're walking." It's like, yes, I am.
Yeah. I mean, you hear the guys that are killed, the officials, the drivers, the crew, and the fact that you're up and walking around. I mean, you've got a lot of road to recovery still to go before you're fully up and running, but you're in amazing shape.
Yeah, no, I feel very fortunate. I mean, it's weird. You see these skateboarders break an ankle or something. They got to have like 6 operations on that ankle, and like my only operation was to get my head stitched back together. I mean, a lot of broken bones and stuff, but that stuff heals. I just beyond words that I'm in the shape that I'm in, and so is everybody else. I mean, this could have been way worse than what it was. So I feel pretty fortunate.
Can you go through the laundry list of injuries that you suffered from that?
Yeah, we'll start low and we'll work high. I broke my fibula in my leg right below the knee. Actually, last Friday they did a little operation on my shin to have some debris removed from it. Turned out to be rocks.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. I broke my collarbone, C5, 6, and 7 in my neck, T1, 2, and 3 in my back, that's the lower neck, upper back. And then there's something down a little bit lower between the shoulder blades where the rib meets the vertebrae. Mm-hmm. There's a little compression fracture through there.
Those hurt.
Yes. Had a pretty wicked concussion. Still dealing with that a little bit, but that's getting better. And they say, the hangover from a concussion can last up to 6 months. So,
wow.
But it's clearing up pretty good. I got my head stitched up. It pretty much scalped me, and that was pretty wicked. But it looks pretty good. And yeah, so that's. I don't think I'm forgetting anything, but that's about it.
Well, that's a pretty good list. I mean, that's a fishing tail worth of a list if I've ever heard one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you've got lucky in the fact that, you didn't have any actual joint damage. You didn't tear an elbow up or a wrist up or a hip or something like that. So that's a positive note as far as your healing goes. But healing a broken back and a broken neck are tough.
It's mornings are terrible. Pretty stiff and sore and all that. And then I get limbered up through the day, and then nights are kind of bad too. Start stiffening back up. But no, this therapy at Madonna is just absolutely doing great right now. They've really started working me around and, getting a lot more movement. And, it's just, we're starting to see light at the end of the tunnel.
That's great. The right kind of light at the end of the tunnel. That's great.
Yeah.
Not the train light that's going to hit you again.
Oh, that poor train. The response time with the safety crew at Eagle, I mean, you can't say enough to how fast those guys were on you and how they properly braced you and took care of you to make sure that between the point of you being on the ground and getting to the hospital that more damage wasn't done.
I owe those guys my life. I'm not not in the medical field by any means, but I just have a good feeling that if this happened at any other track, and I'm not saying all tracks, but any other track, that it might have ended up a little bit different.
Yeah.
Those guys were there quick, and I mean, just professional. You all the time you hear them training, and you can't say enough about those guys.
Yeah, to say well-oiled machine is such a cliche, but when I sat there and watched, I mean, it was like an orchestra. They moved everybody around in assigned position. I mean, every single person knew exactly what they needed to do. They got it done and got you to the hospital. And I mean, it was I hate to say it was interesting to watch, but it was really reassuring knowing that if anything ever happens to anybody at that track, they're in pretty darn good hands.
I think they're in the best hands around, hands down on that. You can't argue that.
Well, like I ask a lot of the drivers that come on and join us on the show, what's your off-season plans and what's your plans for 2019?
Rehab.
Yeah, say rehab right now. And, of course, I got my daytime TV shows, so that's always, that keeps me going there.
Are you a Dr. Phil or an Ellen kind of guy?
Jerry Springer?
Honestly, this might sound weird, but sports talk radio, I watch a lot of the Dan Patrick show in the morning and stuff, and keeping up on that college football right now. But no, the off season kind of bummed I don't get a hunt this year just because, well, the thought of shooting a gun right now makes me want to pee myself a little bit. Yeah, so I'm not gonna be able to hunt this year, but just biggest thing is just get back to 100%. And my boy, he races karts out at Eagle on Friday nights, and I'm sure we'll later on here in the winter start tearing that down and getting it ready for next year. 2019 for me, I mean, as long as I'm ready to come back, I have plan on coming back as an official this year. So fingers crossed on that.
A lot of people always say, boy, I'd love to have 6 months off of work. How you doing with that?
Not well at all. I'm not one to just sit at all. And it's the first month was rough. The second month was rougher. But the more I'm getting mobile, the more I can do around the house. I can go out and sweep the garage a little bit, or help the wife out with some chores around the house. I mean, nothing too strenuous, but it's enough to kind of keep me going through the day.
Yeah,
but I'm ready to get back to work 100%.
Well, I'll tell you, I'm so glad you're okay, and you and I aren't the closest of people. We chatted every once in a while in the infield, but so glad you're okay, and I mean, your road to recovery has been absolutely amazing.
Well, I appreciate that. I love hanging out with you down in the infield. I keep telling everybody I love that job. Best seat in the house.
Isn't it? The only thing I don't like about it is I get dizzy turning with the field.
Go counterclockwise with them. That helps out a little bit.
Okay, good idea.
Always watching the direction they're coming from. Yeah. Don't turn your back on those guys.
Man, I tell you, it's scary because I've got no problem working the infield at I-80 Speedway because it's all guardrail. But in the infield at Eagle, they can come at you from any angle, and there's not a lot of stuff in that infield to stop them.
No, there's not a whole lot to hide behind.
Yeah. Well, buddy, like I said, we're glad you're doing well. Best of luck holding it together through the off season. I can't wait to see you at the first race out of Eagle, the
Frostbuster,
Icebreaker. Yes, Frostbuster.
Ladies' Night. I don't know. They've been advertising everything already. So
it's just the spring meltdown.
Yeah.
I get them confused, which is the first race at which track between I-80 and Eagle. So I think I probably just made a couple of people mad with that confusion. But
well, I think they got that wingless show first before the Frostbuster, whatever it is.
Ooh, that was a good show this year.
That was a great show.
And the other good thing about that, you got to watch quite a few of the races from the VIP booth.
Yes, I can't argue with that. That's probably the second best seat in the house.
All right, man, we're gonna let you get back to it. Best of luck with the rest of your rehab. We can't wait to see you back out at Eagle.
Hey, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you, bud. Have a good one.
Thanks, Tim.
You too.
Yeah, you said it there. You say it again. You can't believe how well he's doing. He was struck by a race car, and I mean, that was a scary hour until they got him off, and we got word that he is stable and doing well.
Well, and it happened several years ago down at Eagle. Mike Cisak got struck by a modified that shot up the exit there down in turn 1, and now they put the guardrail and stuff in there. That was, the precursor to all that.
Yeah.
So maybe they'll give him a little guardrail to hide behind down there on the front straightaway.
I can tell you that the first dirt race I was ever at was the spring meltdown at Eagle at I-80 Speedway, in April of 2012. Very first dirt race I was ever at. I was 5 steps into the infield, and Joe Koziski grabs me like like a PE teacher would grab a misbehaving child, and he grabs me by the shirt and he pulls me in close because the engines were running, and he goes, "You keep your head on a swivel because these guys can't see you 90% of the time, and you'll turn into a bug real quick." I've had like 5 or 6 close calls that most of them were me just being an idiot and not paying attention, and I'll gladly own up to that. And Tim's was nothing of the sort. It was just a circumstance, which is why I don't want anybody to pass any blame to anybody because it was a circumstance.
And no, I have not pushed Dan in front of a car yet.
Well, I know you've tried.
No, that's what I said. Yet I have not tried. So.
You tried to push me out on the way home one time, but
well, that's
I
a
was
whole
driving.
story.
That didn't work out very well. All right, we're going to take a break. We'll be back in turn number 3. Shayle Bade will join us to talk about her 2018 season.
We all have that coworker that runs their mouth off at how great they are. They shot a 5 under par, 95-mile-an-hour fastball, bench press 375, brah. Wouldn't you love to shut them up by schooling them at Joe's Karting? Council Bluffs' premier indoor karting track, professionally designed so each corner is your opportunity to embarrass your coworker. Call Buddy for your next company outing at 712-256-5278. Joe's Karting, white knuckle racing just across the river on 23rd Avenue next to AMC 17.
If you love wings, if you love rings, and all kinds of other tempting things, great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Quaker Steak and Lube is the official watering hole for the front stretch and the best place to catch all the NASCAR action today. Open at 11 a.m. with delivery available to Council Bluffs.
Great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Feather the brake and get back to the gas. Dan and Dirk are headed into turn 3 on the front stretch.
Welcome back to the front stretch. Rolling into turn number 3, and it's time to sit down with one of the drivers that was racing with the Nebraska 360s this year in her rookie season, driving the 03 Helget Construction Sprint car. Shayle Bade joining us. How you doing, hon?
I am doing super. How are you guys?
Doing well, and I'm sorry I did it to you again. I've tried so hard to stop calling you hun because it's a little bit demeaning and, the whole Me Too movement and, trying to be nice. But
but she's in the Me 3 movement, the Me 03 movement.
That's true.
Yes. And, I don't mind. Makes me feel young still.
All right. Well, anything I can do to help a lady feel young, especially when you're like 15 years younger than me. So, well, a lot's happened to you since we talked last. I want to recap you a little bit. We sat down at your at the I-80 Speedway during I think it was the Bill Smith Memorial, and we were talking about the relationship and how happy you were just to be with Chris, and marriage really wasn't on the radar. And a week after I aired the interview, he proposes.
I know. How about that? I think you had something turning in his head. The wheels were going.
I'll take any credit I can get.
Yeah, so a lot has changed since then. Shoot, yeah, we're done with racing. We had the rookie season, getting married. It's all happening super fast.
Well, come on, tell us more about that. Let's not glaze over the whole marriage thing. Did you have an idea that night that it was coming, or were you incredibly surprised?
Incredibly surprised. I was so surprised that all of the pictures of him down on his knee asking me were so bad. Like, so bad that nobody has seen any of them.
Really?
Not sure if you noticed.
Do you think he was just going to knock the mud off your boots or something, or what?
Well, see, I'm not very good at getting surprised, so my reaction was horrible. Like, I looked disgusted and mortified and mad, angry, like everything that I shouldn't have looked, I looked like.
So mean mugging
and so
Shayle?
My sister, yeah. It was bad. My sister, she called me, and she's the one who took our pictures because it was a surprise photo shoot that I ended up planning, having no idea. And she calls me, and she's like, Shayle, all these pictures of your face, I was so focused on your reaction and wanting to capture that moment, and all of these pictures are bad. I was like, well, that just does not surprise me. Like, that is how it would go for me.
Yeah.
but it is what it is. It was great.
All right, so the season's was going pretty well. You sat mostly top 5 in the points for the Nebraska 360s the last time we talked to you. Let's finish up the second half of the season and let anybody know that what happened or didn't get to see what happened to you on a weekly basis. Talk about how your season went.
Well, the first half of the season, again, went super well. We had phenomenal runs. Everything was just clicking as it was supposed to, everything that you would, how you'd want your season to go. It was just going perfect. Well, about middle of the season, started getting a little bit rougher, started having a little bit of motor problems. And for the most part, we stayed up on all 4 wheels. The biggest thing was our motor problems. So we changed out our motor and we just put a brand new motor in it, our backup motor. That way the motor that we were running throughout the season could go get refreshed and it would be ready for nationals, the Knoxville 360 Nationals. And so we put the spare motor in, and the first night, the first race, we were in a dash for the pole, a pole dash. So it was top 6 drivers, and I ended up drawing number 1, ironically. So starting on the pole, all I had to do was finish in first, and 3 laps later in the pole dash, my motor grenaded. So there's the start to what's going to be the end of a really bad season. So after that, we pulled our motor out. We got a whole new car ready. And since we had a couple weeks off at that time, we ended up going through the whole car and just rebuilding everything. We wanted to make sure everything was going to be perfect for when we got that motor back. Well, luckily, Chris's family, they're also into racing. So we ended up borrowing one of their motors, which was a thumper. Like, that thing hauled. So we drove that, and it went really well. Then again, we didn't really know anything about it, so it was just kind of learning the motor and trying to figure out what it liked. So as soon as everything started clicking, we were moving forward, had a couple really good runs in it, and then we ended up getting our motor back. So again, we swapped motors again, and we just put together a brand new car for this motor, put our brand new motor in it, and we were at Jackson, Minnesota, got stuck behind a slower car, tried to pass him, but the track was so heavy that everybody was fast, and it was really tough to pass. So I didn't get much passing points, had to run a B feature. And again, I was behind the same guy in my heat race that I am now behind in the B main. And the guy in my heat race, he was set up for a little bit too loose in the heat. And so in the in the B main, he was set up a little tight. So when we went into that first turn, he started hopping in front of me, and he was hopping out. And the track was super heavy. So I figured I was just going to kind of go on that high side and kind of go around everybody, which was about to work until he hopped into me and destroyed everything. Everything. So there wasn't a straight piece on that fresh, brand new car, which ended up kind of taking us out for most of the season. But my dad let us jump into his 360. That way we could finish our points and to kind of keep where we were in points, because we were running third in points at the time, and I didn't want to fall back. And we basically had all of our shows, and we only had 3 left, and I can only miss 2. So we ended up missing 2, which would have been 2 out-of-town races that he didn't want to go to. And then ended up finishing 4th in our 360 points, which, hey, as a rookie, not bad at all.
That's pretty darn good.
Considering what happened towards the end of the season. It happens. It's racing. And then we also finished 4th in the I-80 point fund, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So 4 was a good number for us this year.
Got to work on getting 4 wins for next year and continuing that on, and then you can jump up into that top 3.
Yeah, she can start her own V4 movement.
The feel of the 360, you spent a lot of time in the 305 at Eagle. You dabbled into the 360 a little bit at the end of the 2017 season, full force into 2018. How do you feel like your season went?
I thought our season went really well. I didn't really know how it was going to go as soon as we started getting into it, you have all these different drivers. We were going to all these different tracks, and it was really tough to know kind of what to expect when we've never traveled with our sprint car. Like, we traveled with the micro sprints and go-karts, but since the sprint cars are so expensive to upkeep, it was just kind of hard to travel. So it was definitely different, but overall, it went really well. It made me a better driver in the end. I got to experience tons of different tracks, tons of different drivers, and it made me better, hands down. Like, for example, when we went back out to Eagle to go race our 305 because of our 360 series was either rained out or we didn't have a race or something that weekend, we went and played with the 305. And my driving has just improved so much by racing all these really great drivers.
Yeah.
So that's something I'm going to take with me for the rest of my life. So no matter what happens, like, next year or the years to come, I am so glad that we did this for a season and did it all the way through. Even though when the times got tough, we didn't quit. We just kept on going and used what we had. That's all we could do.
That's really kind of the testament of a team is, beginning of the season is quite frankly the easiest part of the season because everything's fresh. Everyone's up on their toes. They're well rested.
Excited, yes.
When you start to hit that rough part of the season, the heat of the summer and then the long stretch into the fall months, that's really what tests a driver and a crew.
Yes, definitely.
Well, and
we felt it at times.
You beat the likes of John Clabundy, Seth Bramer, last year's defending champion Ryan Roberts. Do you take that and say we did a great job?
Either way, depending on who we finish in front of and who we finish behind, we had a really good season. I mean, granted, with everything that happened, you really couldn't have asked for a better season except what happened right at the end. And, you're bound to have motor problems. You're bound to flip. It's bound to happen. Rubbin's racing, and if you're going fast, it's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So overall, I thought we did really good, especially being rookies. And if you knew anything coming from our team, we had a whole new team this year. Nothing was the same as it's ever been. This is the first year in 18 years that my dad has not been with me.
Yeah.
Which was really weird. My dad always, would set up my car. We would do everything together. And this is the first year that I did not have that. So I basically kind of had to find a new crew chief, which we did. We had to all click as a team, which we ended up clicking as a team towards the end. But it just took time and effort and money and patience. But overall, I think we had a very successful season from what we came from and what we had to start. We had to start from new for everything. We didn't have a trailer. We didn't have a truck. We didn't have a car. We didn't have a motor. We didn't have nothing. And we had to build everything this year.
Speaking of that, if you're looking for any construction work, Hellgate Construction could be your...
that is right. Hellgate Construction, all the way.
And if you need
gutters, roof, siding.
You need some carpet, head over to Carpet Lane, and Hellgate Construction can install it for you.
Who else besides Helget's on the side of that car?
Onyx Wrap, who does all of our wrap, My Race Pass. They help out with all of my my website and all my T-shirts and selling all of that. And then we also have TJT Photography, who takes all of our photos for our hero cards. Warren Rose Graphics out of Pennsylvania, who also takes all the time and designs all of our hero cards. Gosh, I'm having a brain fart.
Uh-oh.
I know.
Old age creeping up early.
It is indeed.
Talk to us about the rest of the year. Do you have any races planned? Are you going to try to go do any kind of special racing? Anything you got lined up?
We thought about doing the Chili Bowl again this year, but it's so hard to even compete in the Chili Bowl when we don't even race a midget around here. We race maybe, if I'm lucky, I'd race a midget once a year at the Chili Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
But I think this year's smarter for our program, that it would be more beneficial for us to completely rebuild, get everything 100% organized, and spend all of our extra money, if we have any extra money, and put it to our 2019 program. That way we can have, better products and just take the time with everything. So I don't think we're really going to be doing any other racing besides kind of what our 2019 program is going to be for next year.
That was a phrase I didn't recognize in racing. Extra money. I didn't know
right?
that existed.
I know, yeah. If we have any.
I think what word you were looking for was extra credit.
Yes.
So what's that 2019 plan for you? Are you going to race the Nebraska 360s again?
Yes. As of now, we are planning on running the Nebraska 360s again. And then it sounds like they're not going to have as many shows this year. So looks like we'll be able to go to some more tracks, and it looks like Jackson, Minnesota is going to be a track that we hit a lot next year.
We kind of saw you a lot over at Knoxville Raceway. Are you going to possibly try to race weekly there?
Man, I would like to, but that track is so difficult. It's difficult for the driver. It's difficult for crew chief. It's difficult for the motor. It's just a very stressful track.
But just imagine what you're gonna say to yourself after you race this season there, and you're gonna say, "Man, all the things we learned."
I know. One of these days.
When's the new Shayle Bade gear get to the My Race Pass store?
It should be up probably, I'd say February or March.
Okay.
March at the latest.
All right. Well, we'll be looking for it. Best of luck in 2019. Hope to see you around somewhere. Probably see you at the Nebraska 360 banquet in January.
Yes, we will be there for sure.
All right. Congratulations on the 4th place finish. This is Shayle Bade, driver of the 03 for the Nebraska 360s. You can follow her on Facebook of Shayle Bade Racing. And then make sure to find her out at the racetrack. She'll sign an autograph. Thanks a lot. I really appreciate you joining us, Shayle.
Awesome. Thank you guys. Really appreciate you having me.
Thanks, hon.
Have a good... I didn't do it!
I couldn't resist because you didn't. So.
Have a great one. Thanks, Shayle.
That's awesome. Thank you, guys. We'll talk to you later.
Bye, toots. Now I'm pushing it. I'm going to get my ass kicked.
Oh, my gosh.
Not by me, but I'm going to watch.
All right, we'll see you soon.
Man. All right, sounds good. We'll probably see you January.
All right, we'll see you. Have a great one.
All right, you guys too.
Once again, make sure to follow her on Facebook, Shayle Bade Racing, again, on Facebook, driver of the 03. Carpetland, Nebraska 360 Sprint car sponsored by Helget Construction. So we're going to take a break. We'll come back in turn number 4. Texas Motor Speedway is on the big billboard for today. Who's going to win? Who's going to lose? We have no idea, but we'll try to get you a
I know
little
exactly
smarter.
who's going to win.
Oh, boy.
First guy out of the checkers.
Hey. We'll be back in turn 4.
Hey, look at that. You're sitting on your couch playing Halo, Madden, or NASCAR while your friends are at Joe's Karting. Each lap is an adrenaline-filled, heart-pumping, white-knuckle experience that you can only get at the Metro's largest indoor karting track. Eco-friendly Honda engines rip you around their professionally designed road course at breakneck speeds. Can you reach the 14-second lap bracket? There's only one way to find out. Put the controller down and get to Joe's Karting, 23rd Avenue in Council Bluffs next to Quaker Steak and Lube.
It's checkers or wreckers as we enter turn 4 on the front stretch, presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs.
Just about ready to wrap this baby up. Rolling into turn number 4. Lot to remember today. Into turn number 4 brought to you by Quaker Steak and Lube, the official watering hole of the front stretch. Not only is the race today, the AAA Texas 400 on the big screens at Quaker Steak and Lube. Starting at, coverage is at 1 on NBCSN, and the green flag waves at about 2 o'clock, so you can catch all the action on the big screens at Quaker Steak and Lube. But after that, before that, you can go over to Joe's Karting and get involved with the Racing with the Stars. Go race with some local dirt track talent and get to meet some of your close drivers and find out what it looks like behind the helmet and kind of ask them questions, and then you can race them and say, by gum, I beat them.
Yep.
I've never been able to say that, though.
But you don't get to put them in the wall.
No, don't do that. Don't do that. Racing with the Stars going on today over at Joe's Karting, and all the proceeds go to benefit the holiday horsepower drive. So get over to more information on that. And then, of course, coming up in a couple of weeks, the Homestead viewing party at Quaker Steak and Lube. A lot of stuff coming together. Jim Laughlin, who was with us in the pits at Kansas.
For the Xfinity race?
Yeah, he brought over some more hats and some cool stuff to give away, because I don't know where he gets this stuff, but he gives me all sorts of stuff. We got like 50 hats to give away. Just different, GM hats and Valspar and Sunco and all sorts of different brands and sponsors of NASCAR throughout the decades. Great, cool hats to be able to purchase, and you can get them autographed by your favorite driver if you're ever down at the racetracks.
Well, I know he was chasing when I was talking to him. He was heading back in the garage after Algire's crash, trying to get some sheet metal. And we sat there when we talked to Ross Chastain, and a couple guys had brought his front fenders in after they tore them off, and they were getting those autographed by the whole Johnny Davis team down there. So.
Hey, real quick, wanted to talk about some news coming out of the 48 camp. Before we talk about Texas, they announced a full sponsor, which we'd heard there was a sponsor announcement coming, but these days you don't hear of a full season sponsor, and Ally Insurance.
They've got a new ally with Ally.
Yeah, has signed on for 36 full races, the full 2019 and the full 2020 season. So they're going to be a full-time sponsor of that 48 car through the end of Jimmy Johnson's contract. And if all goes well, they may re-up and continue to sponsor that. And you maybe see Jimmy Johnson in the car for longer than we all kind of expected him to. We kind of expect him to run out the rest of his contract and then maybe consider retiring, but maybe not. Who knows now? You know, it's good to hear some news that are coming out of the sport right now. 41 teams were checked in for today's race at Texas. Obviously, with only a 40-team field, one car didn't make it. And we're hearing sponsors getting signed on left and right. So, you know, maybe we've turned a corner. Maybe it's a little bit too soon to say that. Maybe it's just because this is the time of the year that drivers are announced, sponsors are announced, sanctioning bodies announce new deals. Teams announce they're coming into the sport. So tis the season for all this kind of stuff, but you haven't heard a lot about this stuff. You know, you hear, hey, we've brought on a sponsor for 5 races or you know, a 3-year deal for 5 races a year. But for Ally to sign on for a full season, that's a great sign.
And, I mean, last year you had Kyle Larson come out with the First Data deal, and First Data was the title sponsor for Martinsville. You know, I know they signed, I believe it was a 3-year deal last year. They did the Martinsville or the First Data 500 last year. They did it again this year. So I think they've got one more fall race that they're working under. But First Data is putting money into Chip Ganassi Racing and sponsoring Kyle on a handful of cars through their Credit One financial brand. I think that's all tied in with First Data.
Yeah, good deal there. A lot of good news coming out of the sport. All right, let's talk about this race earlier this year, back in April, for the O'Reilly Auto Parts 500. Kyle Busch ends up getting the win after finishing second in stage 1 and winning stage number 2. He walked away with the biggest points of the day. 59 points, led 116 laps, led 4 different times. Kevin Harvick came home runner-up. Jamie McMurray in third, Eric Jones in fourth, and Ryan Blaney rounds out your top 5. Other playoff drivers, Joey Logano finished 6th, Kurt Busch finished 7th, Clint Bowyer 9th, Chase Elliott 11th, and Eric Almirola finished at 32nd after being involved in an accident about a quarter of the way through the race. Like we talked about in turn number 1, Martin Truex Jr. was the worst of the current playoff drivers, finishing tail end Charlie, finishing 37th, only completing 80 laps after being involved in an accident.
And if I'm not mistaken, Kevin Harvick had a pit road penalty, I do believe, and that's what got him all shuffled to the rear in this race, and he was just never able to overcome it until the final stage. But he didn't get any stage 2 points. So
he ended up winning stage 1, so it would make sense that he had that fast of a car if a pit road speeding penalty. I can't remember off the top of my head, so I'm going to have to default to you, which is usually not a bad idea.
Yeah, I'm going to say either that or maybe had a loose wheel issue, but I'm sure thinking a pit road penalty.
This race last year, Kevin Harvick, who was one of the playoffs drivers, ended up getting the win. Martin Truex Jr. came home second, Denny Hamlin third, Matt Kenseth fourth, and Brad Keselowski rounded out your top 5. Kevin Harvick won stage 1, finished second in stage 2, 59 points on the day, but it was Martin Truex Jr. who led the most laps with 107. The second most laps was led by Kyle Larson, 74, but he failed to finish the race. Actually, I shouldn't say failed to finish. Yeah, he failed to finish the race, ended up finishing 37th on the day. So that maybe gives you a little bit of a picture. Kevin Harvick definitely fast here. And I'll tell you this, if you're looking ahead and you're thinking, I'm just going to save my Kevin Harvick pick for Phoenix, I don't think he's the lock of the pick for Phoenix anymore. I think the rest of the field have caught him and Rodney Childers as far as speed at Phoenix, and I don't think he's as guaranteed. He's still a good pick at Phoenix, but I don't think he's as guaranteed as you would think.
Well, they figured out he's running that super low line through turn 4. I mean, he's half a car on the apron, and nobody else was able to figure out how to get down there, but the last couple races, you've seen a lot of cars down there. So
the Pick'ems contest, want to say a big thank you to Rick Havenridge of Wealth Partners, the financial advisory practice of Ameriprise Financial Services. Visit them online at truewealthpartners.com or go directly to rickhavenridgeadvice.com for more information on that. We'll get you an update next week as we are coming into the final 2 races of the Quaker Steak and Lube 5-week contest and the final 3 races of the season-long contest. And This is kind of interesting. I sent out the recap earlier this week. It's the wife leading the husband by a comfortable amount going into the final 3 races in the season-long contest.
In the season-long. Well,
Jim Blazina's wife is leading him, so I would love to be around Thanksgiving table and listen to her maybe giving a little John if she wins the championship.
I don't know. She'll probably be wanting to carve the turkey and all that stuff, you know.
You do all the cooking. I'm going to sit on the recliner and watch the football game.
And I'll come in and carve the turkey.
We'll have to talk to Jim, who's one of the great sponsors of the show, and see if maybe they've got any kind of a bet on the season that maybe he has to take out the trash for the rest of the year, or maybe some foot massages or trips to Cancun.
I'm hoping he's taking the trash out anyway.
That's a good
don't
point.
Think that would be much of a bet, but the trip to Cancun could be interesting.
We'll see if she can get that out of him along with the championship. You can always join us at Quaker Steak and Lube for the Homestead Viewing Party coming up November 18th. We're going to kick things off at noon. A lot of great prizes to give away. A lot of great things going on that day. Cash pools. So much fun stuff. Join us at Quaker Steak and Lube for the Homestead Viewing Party. We're going to crown a NASCAR champion. We're not going to crown him. We're going to watch as a NASCAR champion is crowned, and then we're going to crown our own champion. We'll try to tally the points there to see who is our champion, and then we'll have official results later that week. But then coming up in Daytona, we'll have our official award ceremony for our winner.
Yep, where we ruin their life and get a picture taken with them. So, yeah.
Thanks, everybody, for joining us. I want to say a big thank you to Shayle Bade and Tim Kozak for joining us and talking about their seasons. Tim obviously talking about his accident, and Shayle talking about her time in the 03 for the Nebraska 360s this year, and then kind of giving us a preview for next year. Next weekend's show, this is always a tentative plan because things can always change, but Anthony Ainsley set to join us to preview the 2018 Turkey Chase coming up in just a couple of weeks, and John Sperano, the owner of Helmet Head, is going to come in and talk to us about why you need to have such a cool design on your helmet.
No white buckets.
Absolutely. We're going to do it again next weekend as the front stretch will roll on. Thanks to Joe's Karting for presenting it. Make sure you head down to the Racing with the Stars kicking off today and going on for a couple hours down at down at Joe's Karting. We'll do it all over again next weekend right here on AM 590.
Every race car driver has run into the same problem. It's well past normal parts store closing hours, but you need that one to finish your car. The guys who brought you white knuckle racing by the river bring you Joe's Karting Racing Parts and Tire Store. Open until 10 p.m. Monday to Thursday and open until 11 p.m. on Friday and Saturday. A parts store that fits your after-hours schedule, and you can turn a few laps at Joe's Karting while you're waiting for your part to get pulled from their warehouse. joeskarting.com for more information.
The official watering hole of the front stretch has you covered any day of the week with the best wings, great burgers, and amazing steaks. Each weekday from 4 to 6 is happy hour, featuring $1 off draft and well drinks plus $4 Luberitas. Mondays are kids' night. Tuesdays are all-you-can-eat wings for $12.95, and the lube even delivers to the Council Bluffs area. Like Quaker Steak and Lube Council Bluffs on Facebook for a full list of weekly events.
Get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Mid-America Drive, Council Bluffs.
This has been the Front Stretch Radio Show, presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs. To contact Dan or Dirk, find them on Facebook at The Front Stretch or email them at frontstretch590@gmail.com. If you missed any part of today's show or want to hear a previous show, subscribe to the Joe's Karting YouTube page, where you can find almost every Front Stretch show.